Fall is upon us, and I could not be more excited. I thrive in sweater weather, buried in blankets on those brisk mornings, warm drink in hand, the trees beginning to show off their rich fall colors, hearty meals, and a house that smells of spiced treats. After a very hard summer, it feels like a gift, one I want to make the most of. So it's time to make a cozy home for fall and savor all the season brings. I am ready to decorate for fall today, and I know it's a little early, not quite officially fall yet. We still have about a week before we can call it official, but it's my most favorite season, and I always feel like it flies by before I've had a chance to savor it. Before you know it, you're thinking about Thanksgiving, and then it's total holiday mindset. We've got Christmas, and then before you know it, the New Year is here, and it's bitterly cold, and there's snow on the ground. And that is not my most favorite season, so I want to hang on to fall for as long as I can this year, especially with the potential of this being our last fall in this home. So it's working in my favor. Here it has been hovering right about 70 degrees. Low humidity and nice cool breeze, and the leaves have already started to change in the valley. We've noticed some red and yellow and orange making its way here, and I am just all for it. So today we're gonna bring fall into the home. I'm gonna start on the mantle. That's usually where I focus most of my holiday and seasonal decor. It is the focal point because we have a really small home. I've said before, like, okay, living room, kitchen, you all know very well, and dining area. It's not a room, it's just a table, and that is basically the downstairs. So I don't want it to be overwhelming with the amount of decor that I have. I want, for us here and for anyone coming into our home to feel peace, not overwhelm and chaos. I want my home to feel like a warm hug. I want it to feel cozy and welcoming and homey. For holidays and seasonal decor, I keep it really simple. I don't go out of my way to buy anything that is really overly trendy or themed towards those things. I pull from what I already have. I try and just focus on the colors and tones of the season, the textures. So I'll want warm colors and tones for fall, cozy textures for fall. I like to focus on lighting, especially as the days grow shorter for fall, and like you kind of have like that dim glowy light in the evening. I think that really adds a nice touch. And nature, wherever I can, I bring that in for all of my decorating. So I'm gonna lay the base here, the little foundation, and then we're going to embellish. Every year I try and get a little bit more creative and do things differently than I did the year before, unless for some reason I was really loved what I did last year, and then I'll repeat it. But this year, for a lot of my base, I am using books. I went around, we love books. My husband has a lot of old wartime books, so they have the nice, really worn, yellowed pages, and I have quite a few that I have gotten from antique stores. So they're gonna be my base. I am, however, gonna turn them this way so you see more of the pages rather than the binding, because I want to keep it a bit more neutral. I'm gonna put these three here. I'm not gonna have them perfectly straight because that just adds interest to my eye. Old dough bowl. I'm gonna use this for a bit of a backdrop here. I have some things that are see-through and they kind of needed something behind them to make them pop, so this worked perfectly. Old doilies. I've got a whole bunch of these little things. They're great for just breaking up a lot of the same color and adding some more interest. So I'm just gonna throw this guy there. One of the antiques that I collect are cake stands. I actually use these for centerpieces at our wedding reception. I have 20 of them, but I love these amber colored ones for fall, and it allows me to put some things up higher, add some different heights, and couple more books here. I'm gonna put them about there. All right, I think I'm gonna move this over a bit more so it kind of anchors that dough bowl. Another amber cake plate is gonna go over here, but I'm gonna put a book underneath it just to kind of break it up from the wood here. It needs something to pop, in my opinion. So that's the base. Now I'm gonna start adding some more interest. I love this warm brown vase here, and it looks kind of rustic, which is kind of what I'm going for. And of course, some nature. I'm bringing in some dried hydrangea. I think these fit my color palette perfectly. So we're gonna throw them over here on top of some books. Love that. This is a purchase that I made. My mom and I were out shopping, we went to Home Goods, and I saw these and they just called my name. And usually I am pretty resistant to those purchases, but I really liked them. And I thought they looked very classy and timeless. So I'm gonna put them I have two of them. I'm gonna put one up here, but if I were just to do it like this, it blends in too much to the cake stand. So I'm gonna put a book there and break it up a little bit. And again, I'm gonna put the pages out, and then, you can see, it's its own thing a little bit better. Here's the second one I got. I got two of the taller, skinnier pumpkins rather than the short, stumpy ones. I just liked those better. So that one is gonna go there. I'm gonna turn the stem to go opposite of the other. And then of course I hit up a local greenhouse for a bunch of pumpkins. I chose some really muted colors this time around, none of the really in-your-face bright orange ones. That's just not what I was going with this year. I've used them in years past. So I'm gonna put this guy there. I have another one that's just smaller. I'm gonna place on the opposite side. Now, I try and keep like a cohesive color palette and tone, and I want it to be balanced, but not symmetrical. I don't really love symmetrical anything. That's coming from my florist days. So that one's gonna go over there. And like, I want it to be balanced, so I have two things that are a bit taller, but they're not exactly the same height, nor are they at exactly the same, distance from this picture, if that makes sense. And speaking of balance, I feel like I need another book here on that side so we can even it out a bit. And let me show you up close. More nature, tansy, sweet Annie, dried, that's the frilly stuff, and some more hydrangea in one of my antique finds here. I love copper for fall. So that is gonna go there. I need two more pumpkins, but I wanted some different textures. This is actually a fake one from Home Goods. I thought it looked pretty realistic, plus, it's a one-time buy rather than throwing them out every year. Or really, we throw them into the field. And then this one I have had for a really long time. It has like this fun texture on it. It's actually somewhat broken. I glued it back together, but it's still just fine. I make use of it nearly every year. So we're gonna do this guy here on its side and this one here up against the wall. Hiding, however, the seams of the crack. I ran out to the garden. I have a whole bunch of these little honey nut squash, and I needed something else. So I'm gonna put one over here with this guy. It'll stay. And then something needs to go under here. There's too big of a gap. I think that works. And then I just have an armful of pine cones. More nature, more texture, more warm tones. And I'm just gonna place them all over. I also try and not have everything in one straight line. You gotta push some things back, pull some things forward, create some interest that way. It can really change the whole arrangement. But I think this is what I am gonna leave it at. I'm gonna keep it really simple, but I'm happy with it. There's one more thing it needs though. For some of that glowy light I was talking about, of course, these glass pumpkins need a little votive underneath it, and I love my battery-powered little candles now. These are probably too small, but we're gonna make it work because it's what I have. Maybe in the future I will grab some bigger pillar candles. And of course, last year these were a huge hit. Now I need to put new batteries in them. Let me do that and I'll show you what they look like. But I have loved these so much, these battery powered taper candles, because I love the look of a candle. I want it all over my house. However, I don't want to burn my house down. So these are just amazing, and they're really affordable. And I want to say, like, they last a really long time. We haven't used them much this summer, but it's cozy season, so I'm gonna fill these back up with new batteries. They just take, oh my, dropping things. Oh, they don't take AA, they take AAA. One moment. Okay, now that I'm out of breath from running up and down the stairs to get these, I have secured the correct batteries. Now, this way. Voila. They're so pretty. I love them. They have this really natural glow, and they are actually waxy. I can't speak. They're waxy, and they come with a little remote, and I believe you can do like a little twinkle setting to make it look like a flicker or steady. I love them, and they really just set the mood for these cozier fall evenings. I mean, relax on the couch, watch a good fall movie. The fall movie for me is like The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings with some nice lighting. Anytime I go to decorate my home, or really whenever I'm just maintaining it and putting it back together, doing the homemaker things, I always have in mind that I just want the space to be one filled with peace. I want it to feel safe and welcoming for all who live here or enter here. I want my husband, after a long day, to walk in and feel like, oh, I can rest and relax and recharge here. I want my home to radiate love and warmth, and I try to reflect that in how I take care of the space and how I present it. It also helps that I absolutely love making a house a home and get super excited over making things pretty. When I was growing up, I started collecting things and antiquing when I was fairly young. And in my room, I just had the biggest collection of things. It was full to the brim. But I would constantly be rearranging and redecorating, and I loved it. And I am very much still that same person. If you want that cozy feel at night, grab yourself some lamps. I would recommend finding some vintage ones because you're going to get so much more character. But this just creates such a mood, the ambiance. I love it. I mean, come on. This lighting with Lord of the Rings playing on the screen, what can I say? And this low lighting at night is really going to help reset the nervous system. Your body will thank you, and then therefore, more peace. Now, to properly enjoy the coziness that I've created, I think some fall treats are in order. We're gonna do some baking here in a second, but I want to make a nice cozy fall drink. I have 3 different recipes I'm gonna share with you, and hopefully there is something in there for everyone. All right, first matter of business, we need to brew some coffee. I'm gonna just do a half pot here. I'm gonna use that in 2 drinks, and I'm also going to steep some tea. I want some fall-ish inspired tea here for this tea drink. I'm going to use this vanilla chai. I think any sort of fall flavor would be quite delicious in this. It's been a little while since I have pulled out the tea kettle. Let me get that going. We're gonna make a chai tea latte, but first I have to make some chai spice blend. For that, I need 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, 1 tablespoon of ginger, 2 teaspoons of cardamom, and I'm realizing I'm probably gonna need a
a bigger jar here, and then I need a half teaspoon of cloves and a half teaspoon of nutmeg. And then I usually put in allspice, just like a quarter teaspoon, but I seem to be out of it and I did not realize. So we're gonna leave it at that. Looks like I'll be okay space-wise. We're just gonna shake it up. Now we're gonna steep the tea. I'm gonna do 2 tea bags here in my mug. I'm gonna do about 8 ounces of water. Obviously, very hot. Cover that up, let it go for about 5 minutes. Now for the milk portion. I'm gonna use my little frother here. I had someone ask me in the last video, I think, if I liked the brand that I have, and not really. I got a cheapo one from Walmart. I think it's the Bodum, if that's how you say it, brand. It works, but it's not great. I wish I would have just waited and splurged on something that had better reviews, but I was impatient and I wanted frothed milk. So I'm gonna do probably about 6 ounces of milk, and then I like to go in with a little bit of heavy cream. I like that extra creaminess in all of my drinks, but you can do whatever you'd like there. So I just did, I don't know, maybe another ounce or 2 of the heavy cream. You can use dairy-free by all means. Gonna add about 2 tablespoons of maple syrup and a quarter teaspoon of our chai blend. Okay, that is it. And then I'm just gonna let this steam and froth. Now, obviously you can just put this on the stove top. You can use a little handheld frother like this, or if you don't have a frother, it'll still taste really good. You just won't have that foamy bit on the top there. I really love that. That's why I was impatient and I got this. So I'm just gonna let this go here and it'll turn off when it's done. And there we have chai tea latte. This is like the epitome of fall for me. I'm much more like a spiced chai girl or salted caramel than I am pumpkin. This is it for me. Now, like I said, you can use any sort of fall-inspired tea flavor. You can use brown sugar, you can use honey. I like the maple syrup. You can add a splash of vanilla if you really want to. And like I said, you can use dairy-free, but it's good, you should try it. Of course, we gotta do a pumpkin flavored drink. So we're gonna do a pumpkin spice latte. It's not my personal favorite, not that it's not good, it's just, it's not what I crave this time of year, and I personally much prefer my pumpkin in my baked goods, but to each their own. We're gonna do 3 tablespoons of pumpkin puree in a saucepan, half cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, half teaspoon of vanilla, and then about a quarter to a half teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. I already had this one made, but I'll put the ingredients I use on the screen here for you if you want to make your own. All right, we give this a stir. We don't need it to boil or anything. We just want it to warm up and incorporate well. For the final drink, we're gonna do a spiced honey latte. I'm gonna use my little steamer frother here again, 6 ounces of milk, and 1 to 2 ounces of heavy cream, 2 tablespoons or so of honey. You can use less if you don't want it overly sweet. I'm gonna do about an 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon to start. You can add more to your liking, and then we're gonna do just a pinch of nutmeg. Little tiny splash of vanilla. Okay, and we froth. Now over here, our pumpkin spice mixture is nice and warm. I'm gonna take my little handheld frother. I'm gonna froth this up. I'm gonna fill it halfway up with coffee. And pour the frothy pumpkin mixture on top. Of course, you can Leave some room on the top for some freshly whipped cream. A little sprinkle of cinnamon or nutmeg. Be as extra as you want. Okay, it's good, but I will always go for my caramel and my chai. But if you love pumpkin in your coffee, this is a great pumpkin spice latte dupe. All right, last but not least, this honey spiced latte. Coffee, of course. And our frothy milk mixture. My main issue with this little device is that it doesn't really create much foam. It's not very frothy. I can get a much better foamy milk with my handheld. I just like that it steams it for me. So if you have a steamer frother you really like, let me know down in the comments. I would appreciate it. Okay, this one is also lovely. Hopefully out of these three, everyone can find something that they love. A nice fall, warm, cozy drink. Now I have 3 drinks in front of me. I'm gonna have to go find my little people here to help me drink them.
For dinner this evening, I decided to do a little twist on Marry Me Chicken pasta. We're gonna do Marry Me Chicken stuffed shells. They turned out really good. I hope you try it and love the recipe. So for the filling, you need 1.5 cups of ricotta cheese. You need 4 ounces of diced sun-dried tomatoes, a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese freshly shredded, 2 cloves of garlic minced. You need a 1/2 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and salt and pepper to taste. Now, of course, for Marry Me Chicken, we need some chicken. I am still working through everything I have in my pantry before we end up moving, so I just grabbed one of my jars of home canned chicken. It's about 1.5 pounds. Threw that in there, but of course you can cook up some chicken and throw that in too. Now we're going to make the cream sauce. So in a pan I have 4 tablespoons of butter melted, and in that I have some garlic cooking. There was about 2 teaspoons worth of minced garlic, and I got that nice and fragrant. And then I added 4 more ounces of the sun-dried tomatoes. I just kind of sliced them into strips. That way my kids could pick them out if they didn't like them, but you can dice them if you want. And I just cooked them in that butter for a little while to kind of infuse the butter. Then we're gonna add some cream and some milk. I did 1.5 cups of milk, and I did 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Then we're gonna add 1 cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese and some seasoning. I did a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. I did just a sprinkling of red pepper flakes and salt and pepper to taste, along with the juice of 1/2 a lemon. This simmers for about 5 to 10 minutes until it gets nice and thickened. I have cooked some jumbo shells. You'll need about 20 to 24. It just depends on how full you stuff them. So I took about 1/3 of our prepared sauce and put that in my baking dish. You can use whatever you want. I use this pretty fluted edged one because I felt like being extra. You can use a 9x13. And then I just went ahead and I filled all of the shells, and I poured the remainder of that sauce all over the top, and then added some more Parmesan cheese. This baked at 375 for about 20 minutes. You want the sauce to be nice and bubbly, and of course the cheese to be golden brown. Now let's make a fun fall treat. This is a great one to get the kiddos involved with. I saw this go viral last fall, and I never got around to making it, so I figured let's do it now. It looked super easy and really yummy. So I'm just peeling some apples, and I'm slicing them thinly. And you're gonna need some sort of little circle cutter. I found this random thing in our junk drawer, and it did the trick. So you just need to cut out a circle and get rid of all the core. In hindsight, I should have found something a little bit bigger. You'll see why here in just a minute. So I have a sheet of puff pastry. I'm cutting into very thin strips, and I'm gonna mix up some cinnamon sugar. I just took probably 2 or 3 tablespoons of sugar, and a sprinkling of cinnamon. There was no exact science to this, and I also did a dash of nutmeg. Then you're going to put your apples in there, get them nice and coated with that cinnamon sugar mixture, and then you start to wrap that puff pastry around your apple, threading it through that center hole. And that is where I wish I would have had something a little bit bigger for that circle cutter, because as you thread more and more through, the hole gets smaller. So I had to fight with it a bit, but they still turned out just fine. I took some of the extra puff pastry and I cut out little stems and little leaves. If you have a little leaf cookie cutter, that would have been much simpler, but it worked just fine. Did a quick brushing of some egg wash, sprinkled with some more cinnamon sugar. I put these in a 375-degree oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. Here they are, all finished. They were beautiful and they tasted so good. So very simple, but things that taste good don't have to be difficult. I often have to remind myself this, and I took some of that caramel syrup, the caramel sauce that we made in the last video, and I drizzled that over the top to serve them. Super easy. Definitely give these a try. I hope you enjoyed coming along as I welcomed fall into our home. Some warm colors and cozy blankets, bits of nature, and pumpkins go a long way. Be encouraged to use what you have and get creative. May you be inspired to bring some cozy to your home. Create a peaceful refuge for your family. Fill their bellies with warmth. Snuggle under some blankets and hold them close. Savor the season. Cherish the ones you love. All my love and blessings, friend. Until next time. Take care.